Okay, let's go. All right, so we are holding the fourth class, or actually the fifth class, in Perek Yotes in chapter 19. And we were talking about in yesterday's class that there is a difference between the actual Chachma itself, which has the Or Ein Sof inside of it, and the expression of it, the way it gives chayas to the entire body, to the entire person, to the entire soul. So what we said was that no one is going to do the wrong thing. It's just against our nature to do bad things, to do the wrong thing. However, because of the animal soul, which covers over my godly soul, that's what causes me to look at the world from an inappropriate point of view. So this is what causes me to do the wrong thing. This is what we're calling the ruach shtus, the spirit of folly that comes into me, which causes me to make the wrong decisions and do things that are really not what I should be doing with myself. That's on the one hand. However, what we said in yesterday's class is that only impacts the hashpar, the hamshacha of the chachma, the expression of the chachma, the way it is impacting the rest of the soul. But the chachma itself, which has the Or Ein Sof in it, there's no way that this sackcloth could cover it. That's impossible. So then you could ask yourself the question, wait a minute. So if nothing is covering over it, so shouldn't that be enough for me to be able to do the right things constantly? Why is it then that I am in fact doing the wrong thing and making the wrong decisions over and over and over again? So we said there's a difference between what's happening with the chachma and the hamshacha. The hamshacha that we said before, the ruach shtus that's covering over, that's causing the nefesh elokis, the godly soul, to be in a state of galus, in a state of exile. Exile means something outside of itself is ruling over it, and therefore it has no choice. On the other hand, when we talked about the Chachma itself, when we talked about the Or Ein Sof, which is inside of each one of us, that is in a state of Shena, it's a state of sleep. When a person is in a state of sleep, it's not that someone outside of me is impacting me. No one outside of me is impacting me. It's just me, myself. But I'm in a state of sleep. And because I'm in a state of sleep, so therefore, like we know, when a person goes to sleep, they have dreams and they have all different types of crazy things going on. They're not in control of their consciousness. And that's exactly what's happening here. So therefore, as long as this extended period is happening, i.e., the Chachma is sleeping, the expression of the Chachma, as it's going throughout the rest of the soul, is being covered over by the sackcloth of the klipas, right, of the sitra acher, right? So then a person is going to make very bad decisions, i.e. he's going to do things that are really self-absorbed, really thinking about only me alone, really focusing on doing things that if he was in, so to speak, his right mind, he would not be doing. That's basically what's happening here. Okay, so now we're holding page Chaf Hey, which is page 49. We're a little bit before the middle of the page, right in the middle there. Then it says Ach. However, there's a period and then it says Ach. It says like this, Ach, Kishebayim lidei nisayon. However, up until now we've been talking about that this person is involved in all his desires and all the things of this world that really he's just giving himself over to. So at that point, his brain, his chachma is in a sleep mode. His nefesh elokis, that is the rest of the body, right, is covered over. However, when he comes to a point of a challenge where it's talking about b'devar emunah with regards to believing in Hashem, Shehi l'mayla mehadas. This is above reason. This is a part of me which is above my knowledge, above my intellect. V'naga ad hanefesh, and this touches the soul all the way l'bechinas chachma sheba, all the way up to the level of chachma that's inside of me. Azai hi niura mishinasa. At that point, the Chachma gets woken up. V'pu'ulasa b'koyach Hashem hamalubash ba. And now it impacts through the strength of Hashem, which is inside of the Chachma, it affects the person in a completely different way. Now, like we said in yesterday's class, the sleeping giant has awoken. And when the sleeping giant wakes up, everything else is disappearing. There is no challenge anymore. All of a sudden, everything that was standing in the way, all the folly, all the nonsense, all the really the garbage that was there, all of a sudden just melts away. It's like the same idea as when a person turns on a light in a dark room. He could be walking around the dark room, walking around, and bumping into things for hours. But once he strikes a match, all of a sudden, everything changes. And there's no argument between the darkness and the light. It's not like there's a challenge that's going on over there. There's no challenge. This is it. All of a sudden, new reality. And the point is because at this stage, this nisayon, this challenge that he is facing, has touched him in such a deep way that it automatically just triggers the soul to wake up. It triggers in specifics the Chachma to wake up. Once that Chachma wakes up, then it's a different story. Now, what the main point that he's trying to bring out here is this idea that it has nothing to do with my understanding of the situation, or nothing to do with my understanding of God, has nothing to do with my understanding of Yiddishkeit, of Judaism, has nothing to do with that at all. This is just the way my soul is created. And just not everyone's, every single one of us. So it could be that you could be the biggest Talmudic scholar, or you could be the most, a person that doesn't even know the difference between an aleph and a base. It doesn't matter. Because at this point, everyone is equal. Everyone is the same. And as such, it is not based on any type of meditation the person does or any type of understanding that the person has. And that's what we've seen throughout the generations, unfortunately, that when Jews were told, either bow down to this statue or else, they took the option of or else. And it's not just the great tzaddikim, not just the great righteous people, not just the great rabbis, not just the great rebbitzins. It was everyone. That is very unusual. Because the fact that a person could be not religious and still do that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It just doesn't make sense. If you're going to tell me, look, this person is a very religious man and he's very devoted to the cause, etc., 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 and he does this, okay, I see that, and we always see that throughout the world. But here you have a different story altogether. It doesn't matter if he's religious or he's not religious at all. Because now we're talking about a soul thing. This is the nefesh. This is the soul itself. Right? And when you touch the soul, it changes everything. And that's what he goes on to say. Kamo shekasuv, like it's written, v'yikatz kiyashan Hashem. Right? That it's like he wakes him up, like he was sleeping. La'amoid bin nisayon, to stand up to this challenge, be'amunas Hashem, in the belief in God. Bli shum tam v'das v'seichel musag lo. This is the key words here. Without any tam v'das, without any logic, without any reasoning, without any seichel, without any intellect, that musag lo, that he is grasping with his mind. It has nothing to do with that. Lizgaber ala klipos, that now all of a sudden it's going to win out over all the klipos, over all the shells, all the sitra acher that is against it. V'tayivas oilam hazeh, and all the desires that he has in this world. So if you would have talked to him an hour earlier, he was ready to eat the most not kosher thing, because it's a taiva, it's delicious, and be involved in all those things. And right now, all of a sudden, he's willing to give up his life? How could that be? Because it's not an intellectual decision. What's happening here is that the normal operating system is being set to the side, and all of a sudden a new operating system is taking over in his brain and in his being. And that new operating system, when it takes over, everything else just jumps out of the way. And everything, all the whole ways that he may have acted his entire life for the last 50 years, 70 years, 80 years, whatever it is just irrelevant. Because at that moment, this new operating system overruns everything, and then that's it. There's nothing you could do now. And so therefore, it's almost like he is not in control with his own mind. Because his etzem, his essence of who he is, just takes over completely. That's what winds up going on here. Yeah? So he says like this, right? It's going to Lizgaber ala klipos. It's going to win out over the klipos, v'taivas oilam haza, and the desires of this world, beheter v'isr, whether it's permitted or not permitted. Shohurgal bahem, that he became accustomed to doing. That's his habit. His habits have been that he's been doing this and all these nonsensical things for all this time. But right now it's off the table. V'limos bahem, and to be disgusted by them. V'livchor loy, right, and instead to choose for him Hashem lechelko v'garalo, right, and now he's choosing God, right. It's now a choice that he's choosing Hashem, and that's it. That becomes his whole thing, his whole metzias, his whole being, his whole everything. Limsar lo nafshal al kedusha shemo, in order to give up his life for God, because he can't have it any other way. V'av ki haklipos gavru alav kol yamav. So he asks the question, but wait a minute, how could this be? The klipos have been winning out over him his entire life, every single day of his life. Right? The spirit of folly that we talked about on the top of the page has been winning out. And it's been telling him, no, go after this and go after that and go after the other thing. Right? How come all of a sudden now it's like that whole story is like ancient history? It's not a part of him. V'lo yochol lahem. Kamaymer Azal, like it says, shaharishayim heim berishus libam. And he wasn't able to control himself. Like we talked about even in chapter 17. Right? That rishayim berishus libam. Right? That the rishayim, right? People that are not holding the way they need to be holding. Right? That their hearts are totally in control, meaning that they can't control themselves. They're just going after all these different desires all day long. They're addicted to this and addicted to that and addicted to the other thing, and they're running and running and running and running and running. And no, who is in charge here? There's no one in charge. There is someone in charge. It's the animal soul. The animal soul is in charge. And he just does whatever it thinks, what he wants to do. And whatever it seems to be good for me, that's what I do. That's what the animal soul says. This is good for me, and this is good for me, and this is good for me, and etc., etc., etc. And that's it. And he can't control it at all. Even if he wants to stop it, it's very hard for him to stop it. That's what the rabbis teach us. Mikol makom kishibali de nisayan b'dvar emunas Hashem. Right, Echad. However, now when he comes to this point, to this challenge, with regards to the belief in God, Hashem is one. She is Saidasa Bahare Kodesh. Right? He bechinas chachma shebenefesh alokis sheba malubash or einso baruchu hare kol aklipos batel muvutalim v'hayu kolo hayu mamish livnei Hashem. So now all of a sudden, when the chachma and the or Ein Sof inside the chachma all of a sudden gets woken up, so then everything else, all the klipa, all the garbage, all the nonsense, all the everything just becomes nullified. It just disappears as though it never was there before. Because now all of a sudden you woke up the sleeping giant. And with that, all of a sudden, everything changes. The whole story changes. It's almost like there's this huge fire that all of a sudden goes up, and everything just burns away. And now there's nothing left. There's no coverings left. All you have is pure, godly soul. And that's what happens now. And so therefore, it's not practical. It's not shaykh. It's not. The person is not in the mindset that he would ever consider doing anything against this. And that's what happens. Clear? Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll have maybe one or two more classes on chapter 19, but we'll stop here for today.